So you're looking for the perfect microphone and you stumble upon these specs in their microphone sheet. The first one being the frequency response rate or frequency rate of that microphone. And it might be 20 to 20,000 kilohertz. This spec is very much the same as with your headphones. The amount of frequencies and the band of frequencies it can represent. And the human hearing, I think, is in the range of 20 to 20,000, so that's a good spec. Next one is Max SPL. What's that? Well, it's the maximum amount of noise, I mean the decibels that this microphone can handle. And if it's up to the 120, that's pretty fucking loud. The next spec is output impedance, and that means how much gain you will need on the microphone preamp to drive this microphone optimally. So a higher output impedance, you're going to get a lower signal, so you're going to need a little bit more gain on the audio interface or whatever you're driving this mic with. And the last spec I understand anything about in these microphones is the inherent self-noise. This is quite an important spec. So it's the amount of hiss or hum or whatever type of noise and how much decibels of that the mic makes when it's just recording. This, in my own opinion, should be as low as possible. It creates this kind of an isolated sound where any sound source becomes its own thing. So that could be in the ranges of 3 decibels to 15 or even 20. What you have to keep in mind over here is that when you turn up the gain, the self-noise also gets louder. So as low as it gets, so if that self-noise on the microphone is as low as it gets, you can boost the signal more freely, you can use gain more freely and get a clean sounding audio. That's everything I know about microphone specs so far. And keep in mind that even if two microphones are very same on the spec sheet, they might sound pretty different. So this is not the only thing that matters. Oh yeah, there's more. There's more specs that matter in the microphones. Polar patterns. What's that? In some microphones there's a polar pattern switch. And you can change it to the omnidirectional or the sphere type of pattern. It means that the microphone captures sound only from the front of it or from the front and back. There's also something called the low cut filter or low cut. What's that? It means that when you have certain frequencies, for example below 240 Hertz, if you have a low cut filter switch on your microphone, you can filter those out. And for example, in the human voice, if you do this, your output becomes less booming. And you can do higher volume on your speakers without getting that booming type of sound that makes people turn their speakers down, actually. Of course, you could do that in the post-production. You could just, with EQ, turn those down, but in my own opinion I would prefer a mic that has those switches on it. And then there's the pad, and the pad just takes a certain amount of decibels out of the signal. So you could have -10 or -20 decibels of the signal, so you become more silent. So if you have a very loud sound source, for example, you could turn on that pad and with that get more silent of a signal to compensate for that loud sound source. That's everything I have learned about microphone specs so far.